Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer halted high school fall sports the entire season for at least the next 3 weeks. That was announced last night. And I think it took a lot of the teams and a lot of the players and the coaches for a loop. A lot of disappointment with those teams. However, the Michigan High School School Athletic Association makes these decisions out of the safety and the concern for the students as well as their teammates and their family members as well. Joining us now is John Johnson. He is the Director of Broadcast Properties for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Thanks for being with us. Not an easy decision for you and your team to make.
Well, it's a decision we had to accept. The only thing that we could really do is make a decision about what will we do when these restrictions come off. And we remain committed to finishing these tournaments that have started. This is like many other things with COVID. This was beyond the association's control. We would be breaking state law if high school sports would be allowed to continue. And so the only wiggle room in there was to, oh, sure, we could have practices and such today and tomorrow, but that wouldn't be a very good look to have, to be gathering teams together at a time when we're being told by state government not to.
But John, how is this going to work? Because let's say in 3 weeks, the order is lifted, you try to go ahead and continue the postseason, but the players haven't been playing for 3 weeks. I'm sure it's not like a light switch where we can say, hey, we're just going to turn it back on and get out there and play.
Absolutely not. And just like we did in the fall when we first suspended activities, there will be some practice time that would be allotted to teams to get back into game shape, to allow swimmers to continue their taper. Because if you're looking at a group most affected, swimmers have really primed themselves and worked hard to get to this exact point in the season. And so they would need time to, get some training in. Football players would need to get the same, obviously, in volleyball. But swimming probably has a little more problems just because of the fact that you train for a certain meet of the season. And that would have been this Friday and Saturday at Hudsonville and Grand Rapids and up at Lake Orion. But we've got some ideas in place that we're going to run by our board, which will meet later this week to see how school people would react to a potential schedule to try to get tournaments refired if we get the green light to resume on December 9th. And that's still a really big question.
And then John Johnson, Director of Broadcast Properties for the Michigan High School Athletics Association. Organizationally, as you're planning for the remaining 3 weeks of the football tournament and for these other tournaments, what goes into the planning of those then? Because a lot of the times, especially in the regional finals like we're heading toward for football, these are on team sites. There could be weather implications such as snow on the ground that may not be able to be necessarily removed from the school, or facilities that may not be able to be upkept for any sort of spectators or broadcasts or whatever may be. What does the MHSAA do at that point for that continuity in the tournament if these schools are having any issues of that kind?
Well, and those are things that we've encountered in October, things that we've encountered in early November, things that other states have encountered. Everybody always likes to point at Ohio and say, yeah, Ohio can play, this. And so, yeah, they play football into December too in a normal year. And they've played their state championships in snowstorms and ice storms outside. At least we have the benefit of being able to play our finals, and we will play our finals if we get to them inside at Ford Field. That decision was made last week. But this is an important time of year for schools to be readying their outdoor facilities for the winter. Most of them have it done already if you're among those schools that aren't still playing in the tournament. And so, yes, there's a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration. But let's also remember that, we've had snowless Christmases here downstate. And, the weather can always do all kinds of wacky things. We could have a 50-degree day and be playing regional finals outside. We just got to roll with the punches and play with the hand that we're given.
Yeah, at times like this, you really wish the Farmer's Almanac was as accurate as it was to help you make some of these decisions. And, so the state title games were going to be December 4th and 5th at Ford Field. And if you're able to extend them, delay them and play again, what is that like to try to schedule Ford Field, a big entity, with a date that could constantly be changing?
Well, first of all, if we look at December dates, we have a very good chance to get into the building. Even January dates, there's a lot of events that have been taken off the schedule because of COVID. There was supposed to be a monster truck thing. Well, that's gone now. There was supposed to be it's not called the Motor City Bowl, but Quick Lane Bowl. Quick Lane Bowl got pulled off the calendar. That would have been the week following the Lions home game on the 27th. So you have a window there. It's just a matter, again, play the hand that you're given. We're already looking into the dates with Ford Field about the possibilities. And we have to do the same thing with our schools. Will our schools be available? Those sites that I mentioned earlier about swimming, Battle Creek has already indicated to us its availability whenever to bring the volleyball finals back into Kellogg Arena. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. We've got a few weeks to work on it. But, again, we've got to wait and see if this is, if this is a 3-week pause or just a 3-week tease.
John Johnson with us, the Director of Broadcast Properties at the Michigan High School Athletics Association, or the MHSAA. With us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Of course, all high school sports in the state of Michigan have been suspended in reaction to the in compliance with the epidemic order recently enacted by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services that goes into effect on Wednesday. And from the MHSAA's perspective, there have been some outbreaks. There have been some cases of COVID-19 amongst fall sport athletes, but they've been handled. They've been contained within the schools, and some have even shut down their programs during the playoffs in some of these sports because of COVID-19 outbreaks. Does the MHSAA believe that at this time, if they were permitted to have continued to play these sports, that they could continue to do those safely? And is this maybe something that the organization disagrees with on the state government's part?
Well, we are going to support state government in any decision that's made regardless of this is too important. This is bigger than any football game, any volleyball match, any swimming or diving event. And when you take a look at high schools being targeted here for shutdown, and some of the comments that I heard last night, I'm not sure that some of that information was accurate about transmission during sporting events. Because all of the things that you've seen so far in the newspapers report that outbreaks in high school have been connected to things that were non-athletic. These secret homecoming events, these after the game parties that parents would throw indoors and players would go to. And yeah, some player parties, but these are all things that are away from the school. You have to remember that we were conducting in excess of 95% of our athletic events here during the fall. Those are the numbers that we saw from Iowa when Iowa conducted its baseball and softball tournaments during the summer. And, we had a very good fall. And, we've seen a lot of coaches say, hey, we feel fortunate to get to where we've gotten. Ron Bellamy at West Bloomfield High was just quoted as saying that in one of the Detroit newspapers this morning. Our volleyball community has told us, hey, we're happy to get what we've gotten so far. There's a lot of people that are still up about this, but, I really disagree with those who say that transmission is happening during high school athletic events, because it's not happening during events. It's happening elsewhere.
And John, just a couple more minutes with you here on the Oakland County MegaCast. As you said, you've had constantly pivot and change how you do things and make decisions on, constantly. A lot goes into one decision and then you're throwing a new curveball. How do you think this pandemic is going to make your organization and the high school athletes stronger?
Well, there's been a lot of things that have happened along the way that we've looked at in conducting our tournaments and conducting the regular seasons. Even at the local level, schools would say, hey, wait a minute, this worked pretty good right now. What if we did this in did it this way in a non-pandemic year? So we've been given a lot of food for thought about how to approach some of our day-to-day business. Mother is, what is that? The mother is the necessity. I can't remember how that thing goes. But out of necessity, we've done some things that might serve us very well if all things were normal. And so, we'll come out of this with having learned a lot about how to conduct some of our tournaments, how to conduct some of our games. And we'll have a lot of discussion for our membership going forward. But right now, our goal is to finish what we started here for the fall and move on, and then provide the same experiences for the kids in the winter and the kids in the spring.
John Johnson with us from the MHSAA. For those in the winter and the spring, should those athletes, those coaches, and parents, of course, should they be anticipating moderate delays in those seasons' starts and finishes, or shortened seasons because of the current shutdown and, of course, the after effects of the previous shutdown before the fall season?
Well, I think everything is still up for discussion, but practices for fall sports, we're projecting, if we get a green light to go on December 9th, that will not only include finishing up our fall tournaments, it will include the beginning of winter practices. And so if we get things going, then people could expect January for the resumption or the launch of the regular season, which a number of schools were already taking that precaution anyway, pushing things back into January. Now that might make for a shortened winter tournament season. One of our thoughts right now is just to keep the tournament dates the way they are. And then, we'll see what happens this spring when we get there. But, right now, this isn't knocking us off task. We're still bound and determined to, finish up the fall and have the rest of the school year go on the best we can with all of the circumstances swirling around us.
That's all any of us can do right now, just trying to deal with things that are out of our control and make the best of the situation. John, anything we didn't touch on that you want to say before we let you go?
No, I think it's just incumbent upon all of us to look at what we must do. And it's the stuff everybody's heard before about masking up and washing your hands and all of that kinds of stuff. School sports was doing that pretty well. Society, hey, we can have a great discussion about masking up and washing our hands and all of that other stuff. But doing the things that get us into a position to, as the governor has said, flatten the curve again, because it has to be done. We'll see in a couple of weeks if, Michiganders are doing that, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. And we just ask everybody, do your part to try to help us squash COVID-19.
Yeah, and I will say we have to give a lot of credit to a lot of these student athletes who have been taking the necessary precautions and playing with the mask and doing what they needed to do to try to stay safe and keep their sport going. And a lot of credit needs to go to them as well as their coaches out there.
Oh, absolutely. Our schools are doing the best job that they can, under some trying circumstances and dealing with different parts of the state and, and different thought processes. Just like we heard all of this stuff, in the months leading up to this point, a lot of things you hear in the community about people not wanting to do things. Now you hear about those in sports too. And you got to remember, we live in a society nowadays where nobody can tell us what to do. That's a fact. And but this is the time where everybody needs to everybody needs to step up. Everybody needs to do the right thing. Everybody needs to do the same things. And let's get rid of this virus.
Well, thank you again for being with us. I know a lot of disappointed students out there as well as some of their parents, but the end goal here is to keep everyone safe. Thank you, John Johnson. He is the Director of Broadcast Properties for the Michigan High School Athletic Association.